I couldn't believe it, not even as I stood there watching it unfold with my own eyes. My only son, Marcus, the boy I'd raised and sacrificed everything for, had become a willing pawn in an elaborate scheme to steal every last penny I possessed, all while showering a complete stranger with a $60,000 luxury car right in front of me in my own living room. But what they didn't know, what Linda Chen certainly didn't know, was that a mother's heart, once broken, can become surprisingly sharp, capable of a resolve as cold and hard as steel. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. My name is Dot Williams, and I'm 70 years old. I've lived in this modest Virginia house for 45 years, ever since my late husband Tom and I bought it when Marcus was just a baby. We built a life here, brick by brick, memory by memory. Tom was a good man, a hard-working man. He made sure I was provided for, with a small pension in this house, paid off decades ago. It wasn't a mansion, but it was my sanctuary, filled with the echoes of laughter, the scent of my rose garden, and the comfort of decades of stability. I'd always prided myself on being a good mother, maybe even a little too selfless. I worked hard my whole life, scrimping and saving, putting Marcus through college, always there for him, for Ashley, his wife, and for my two precious grandchildren, Emma and Jake. My world revolved around them, and I thought theirs, in some fundamental way, revolved around me too. I loved them fiercely. Then, about 8 months ago, Linda Chen drifted into our lives. She was charismatic, impeccably dressed, always had a fascinating story to tell. She'd met Marcus through some community group, she said, a lonely widow looking for connection, eager to share her wisdom and experiences. She quickly charmed her way into the family, becoming a fixture at Sunday dinners, a mom Linda to my grandchildren, a friend to Ashley. I tried to be open, to welcome her. I'm not a jealous woman, or at least I never thought I was, but there was always something off, a little too perfect, a little too eager to dispense advice, especially about finances and living life to the fullest in retirement. I brushed it off as just her personality. After all, what harm could a friendly widow do? Christmas arrived, and it was supposed to be a joyous occasion. The whole family gathered. The grandchildren were tearing into their presents, paper flying. Then it came time for Marcus and Ashley to give me my gift. I watched as Marcus, my tall, handsome son, handed me a small, carefully wrapped box. My heart swelled with anticipation. I imagined a new scarf, maybe a gift card to my favorite bookstore. I carefully peeled back the paper to reveal a small ceramic piggy bank, painted in bright, cheerful colors with a slot for coins. It literally had a sticker on the bottom that read, $3, 0, 0. My hands trembled slightly as I held it. A $3 piggy bank for me, at 70 years old. I looked up, a bewildered smile pasted on my face, hoping I'd misunderstood. "Oh, Mom," Ashley chirped, not meeting my gaze. "It's just a fun little thing, for your loose change, you know." Marcus just shrugged, a nervous twitch in his eye. My heart sank, a heavy, cold weight. It wasn't the value. It was the blatant disregard, the casual dismissal of me. I felt like a child who had been given a toy, not the matriarch of the family. But the real gut punch came moments later. "And now," Linda announced, clapping her hands, "my turn." Marcus and Ashley led her outside, the children following, giggling. I stayed behind, my eyes fixed on that absurd piggy bank. Through the window, I watched as they stood next to a gleaming, brand-new BMW sedan, deep sapphire blue, with a giant red bow tied around the hood. Marcus handed Linda the keys. She gasped, feigned tears, hugged them both extravagantly. "Oh, you shouldn't have. This is far too much," she exclaimed, but her eyes, even from a distance, glinted with undeniable triumph. A $60,000 car, for a woman they'd known for less than a year, a $3 piggy bank for their mother. The contrast was brutal, a punch to the gut that left me breathless. It wasn't just neglect. It felt like a deliberate insult, a public declaration of where I stood in their priorities. I felt invisible, unloved, replaced. The betrayal, the profound sense of being utterly discarded, left me hollowed out. I faked a headache and went home early, the metallic taste of tears filling my mouth. That night, alone in my quiet house, the $3 piggy bank sitting mockingly on my kitchen counter, something inside me snapped. The hurt, the disbelief, the simmering anger that had been bubbling under the surface for months solidified into a cold, hard resolve. This wasn't just about a gift, or lack thereof. This wasn't about a perceived slight. This was about something deeply, fundamentally wrong. My son, my Ashley, they weren't like this. They couldn't be. There was a puppet master pulling the strings, and I had a chilling suspicion it was Linda Chen. I knew right then that Dot Williams wasn't going to be a victim. I was going to find out what was truly happening, no matter what it took. The sweet, forgiving mother was gone, at least for a while. In her place was a woman who was tired of being underestimated and who was ready to fight for her family and her future. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. A few days after Christmas, Linda called, full of apologies, claiming she'd left her expensive designer purse at my house during the chaos of the party. My heart pounded as I told her, as calmly as I could, that I'd look for it. I knew exactly where it was. It had been sitting on my coat stand since she'd left. I went to the coat stand, my hand hovering over the beautiful, soft leather. My conscience screamed at me, told me it was wrong to snoop. But my gut, that deep maternal instinct that had saved me more times than I could count, screamed louder. It was screaming about my son, about my grandchildren, about the house Tom and I had built. My hand closed over the clasp. Inside, I found a meticulously organized interior. High-end makeup, a fancy credit card holder, and then, nestled among them, a thick stack of bank statements. My eyes widened. These weren't modest savings. These were accounts with 6, sometimes 7 figures. Linda wasn't a lonely widow living off a modest pension. She was wealthy. My heart quickened. Then, deeper still, I found a small, discreet digital camera and what looked like printouts of photos. I picked one up, and my blood ran cold. It was a photo of my own mailbox, taken from the street. Another showed a stack of my bills on my kitchen counter. And then, the ultimate violation, a close-up photo of a draft of my old will, sitting on my desk, listing Marcus as my sole beneficiary. My hands began to shake uncontrollably. This wasn't just snooping. This was professional-grade surveillance. As I put the photos back, a business card slipped out from a hidden pocket. It read, Brian Chen, elder law and estate planning attorney, specializing in elder fraud, and below it, his phone number. The last name hit me first, Chen, the same as Linda. My mind raced. Linda had always presented herself as a lonely widow, no family, just looking for connection. Brian Chen, elder fraud attorney. The pieces clicked into place with a sickening thud. This wasn't just a friendly widow. This was a predator, and I was her prey. I tucked the purse back onto the coat stand, my face flushed, my mind reeling. I needed to move carefully, precisely. I called my best friend Carol, who had always been my rock. I told her everything, leaving out no detail. She listened patiently, her gasp audible when I described the surveillance photos. Dot, she said, her voice firm. You need to protect yourself. And your family. The next week was a blur of calculated moves. My first step was to discreetly secure my own documents. I invested in a small, fireproof safe, locked away my will, my deeds, my bank statements. Then, armed with Brian Chen's card, I did something I never thought I'd do. I Googled him. A prominent attorney in New York, a rising star in the legal community, known for his relentless pursuit of elder fraudsters. This man was Linda's son. The irony was almost comical if it hadn't been so terrifying. A few days later, a local police officer, Officer Patterson, called me. He said he was investigating a missing person report filed by a Mr. Brian Chen for his mother, Linda. My breath caught in my throat. I played dumb, told him Linda had left my house around a certain time, hadn't heard from her since. The call confirmed everything. Linda was lying about everything. Officer Patterson mentioned that Brian was worried, as his mother had a history of disappearing acts and questionable ventures. My suspicions about her lonely widow facade were absolutely confirmed. The next difficult step was confronting Marcus. I invited him and Ashley over for coffee. I started gently, asking about their financial situation. They squirmed, avoiding my gaze. I pushed, using the directness I hadn't dared to use in years. Finally, the dam broke. Ashley, tears streaming down her face, confessed she'd lost her job 6 months ago. Marcus, shame etched on his face, admitted he'd taken out a second mortgage on their house to cover expenses, and that his promotion was a complete fabrication, a desperate attempt to keep up appearances. They were drowning in debt. And then came the hardest confession. They had bought Linda the BMW, not as a gift, but as a good faith payment. Linda had promised them, quote, guaranteed high-yield investment opportunities that would solve all their financial woes if they just showed a, quote, commitment. The BMW was a down payment. They were trapped, terrified, and had been so desperate that they had allowed themselves to be manipulated into complicity. My heart ached for them, but a part of me was furious. How could they be so blind, so reckless? But anger could wait. Right now, I needed their help. They were pawns, not the queen, but they were still on the board. My next step was to visit the county clerk's office, a pit in my stomach. I asked to see all documents related to my property, all recent filings concerning my name. And there it was, a power of attorney document granting Marcus full control over my financial assets, with a signature that, at first glance, looked like mine. But it wasn't. It was a forgery, a crude imitation of my distinctive looping, D. My hands shook as I held the paper. This wasn't just a scheme for investment. This was a direct attempt to steal my entire life's savings, my home. This wasn't Marcus's doing. I knew that in my bones. This was Linda, and Marcus was her unwitting accomplice. I immediately called my own attorney, Mr. Henderson, a kind, older gentleman who had handled Tom's estate. I laid everything out, presenting him with the forged POA. His face hardened as he examined it. "This is felony-level fraud, Dorothy," he said, his voice grave. "They were planning to drain you dry." I explained my plan, my burgeoning strategy. He was hesitant at first, worried about the risks, but he saw the determination in my eyes. "All right, Dot," he finally said. "We'll do this your way, but cautiously. What do you need first?" My first crucial legal move was to change my will. With Mr. Henderson's help, I drafted a new one, leaving absolutely everything to a prominent local charity dedicated to elder care and financial literacy. Not a penny to Marcus, Ashley, or Linda. Not because I didn't love my son, but because I needed to remove the target from my back. The motive for the fraud needed to disappear. This was about justice, not inheritance. This was about protecting what Tom and I had built and what I had nurtured for decades. It felt like a weight had been lifted. They wanted my money? Fine. They weren't going to get it. Neither was Linda. I had taken back control. Next, I acquired a small, sophisticated voice recording app for my phone, practicing with it until I was comfortable. I knew I needed irrefutable proof. I also needed Marcus and Ashley fully on board. It took hours of talking, of confronting their shame and fear, of reassuring them that I believed they were victims too, albeit complicit ones. Eventually, they understood the depth of the trap they were in and the absolute necessity of working with me. They agreed to cooperate, terrified but resolute. The plan began to unfold. Linda, unaware of my newfound resolve, grew bolder. She called me, her voice dripping with artificial warmth, suggesting we meet for coffee to discuss my future. She wanted me to sell the house to unlock its equity for these exclusive investment opportunities. We met at a quaint downtown cafe, a neutral territory. I had my phone set to record, tucked discreetly in my purse, the microphone facing her. Linda, confident and self-assured, launched into her spiel. She painted a vivid picture of a luxurious retirement, a life of endless travel and ease, all funded by my house and Tom's pension. She explicitly outlined a plan for me to sell my beloved home, invest the proceeds with a mysterious investment group she claimed to represent, and even hinted at offshore accounts and ways to optimize my tax burden. She was practically detailing money laundering. My heart hammered, but I kept a calm, interested expression on my face, asking probing questions, drawing her out. Every word she uttered, every deceitful promise was being captured. Armed with that damning recording, Marcus and Ashley and I worked on the next phase of the trap. With their cooperation and the careful guidance of Mr. Henderson, who had contacted federal authorities specializing in elder fraud, we created fake financial documents. These weren't just ordinary fakes. These were designed to show that my assets were significantly more valuable than Linda initially believed. We inflated my savings, fabricated a small, additional inheritance I'd supposedly just received. We wanted her greed to override any lingering caution she might possess. Marcus and Ashley played their parts perfectly, feigning enthusiasm, pushing me to move forward with the investments, making it seem like I was an eager, if slightly naive, mark. Linda took the bait, hook, line, and sinker. When she saw the inflated figures, her eyes practically glittered. She became even more aggressive, more confident, utterly convinced she had hit the jackpot. She pressed for a final meeting, demanding to tie up all the loose ends, suggesting we do it at her house for privacy. It was a trap, and she was walking right into it. The day of the confrontation arrived, cool and crisp. My stomach churned with a mixture of fear and grim satisfaction. Marcus and Ashley were pale but determined. We drove to Linda's opulent home, which now, knowing what I knew, felt less like a testament to wealth and more like a monument to deceit. Linda greeted us with her usual dazzling smile, oblivious to the storm about to break. She had a stack of documents ready, her pen poised, eager to get my signature on what would have been my financial death warrant. She laid out her final proposals, again mentioning creative ways to move money, hinting at international transfers and avoiding unnecessary scrutiny. She was practically confessing to financial crimes. "Actually, Linda," I said, my voice steady, surprising even myself with its calm, "I think we have everything we need right here." Her smile faltered. Marcus, gathering his courage, pushed a small envelope across the table. Inside were the printouts of the surveillance photos from her purse, the forged power of attorney document, and a transcript of our cafe conversation. Linda's eyes darted from the documents to my face, then to Marcus and Ashley, her composure finally cracking. "What is this?" she hissed, her voice losing its sugary sweetness. "A misunderstanding. This is ridiculous." "No, Linda," I said, pulling out my phone and pressing play. The cafe recording filled the room, Linda's own voice, clear and incriminating, detailing her entire scheme, the mysterious investment group, the house sale, the money laundering suggestions. Her face drained of all color, contorting into a mask of pure rage and disbelief. You tricked me!" she shrieked, lunging across the table. But just then, the front door opened. Officer Patterson, accompanied by 2 federal agents, stepped into the room. They had been waiting outside, alerted by Mr. Henderson. Linda froze, caught red-handed, her schemes laid bare. She was arrested on the spot, her furious protests and denials falling on deaf ears. As they led her away in handcuffs, I felt no joy, only a profound exhaustion. Justice, though, had a certain quiet satisfaction. The fallout for Linda was swift and severe. With the overwhelming evidence, the recordings, the forged POA, the testimony of Marcus and Ashley, and her own son, Brian Chen, who, horrified by his mother's actions, bravely testified against her. Linda Chen pleaded guilty to multiple charges: elder fraud, forgery, conspiracy to commit theft, and money laundering. She was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison, a stark and deserved consequence for her cruel manipulations. Brian Chen, a man I now greatly respect, spoke eloquently at her sentencing, expressing his condemnation of her crimes balanced with the pain of seeing his own mother fall so far. For Marcus and Ashley, the path was much harder. They faced their deep financial distress head-on. With my help and Mr. Henderson's guidance, they repaid the second mortgage on their house and slowly began to pay back the loan they'd taken out for Linda's BMW, with some restitution from Linda's forfeited assets covering the gap. It wasn't easy. They both took on second jobs, learned to budget, and started counseling to address the underlying issues of financial stress and their painful complicity. There were countless tears, apologies, and difficult conversations, but through it all, they showed genuine remorse and a desperate desire to earn back my trust. Slowly, painstakingly, they did. My life has returned to a peaceful rhythm, but it's a stronger, wiser peace. I kept the $3 piggy bank, not as a reminder of betrayal, but as a symbol of how easily one can be underestimated, and how little true worth has to do with monetary value. I also kept a small, grainy photo of Linda's arrest, a quiet reminder of what I had faced and overcome. My relationship with Marcus and Ashley is still being rebuilt, brick by painstaking brick, but it is a stronger, more honest foundation now. They bring Emma and Jake over every Sunday, and Marcus recently gifted me a beautifully framed wedding photo of Tom and me, a silent acknowledgement of the life we built and the love that endures. I never moved to a villa by the sea or a cabin in the mountains. My home, this house, is where I found my peace, my strength, and my renewed purpose. Justice wasn't about vengeance, but about restoring balance, self-respect, and most importantly, reclaiming my family. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.